Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Royals Rundown Podcast. It is Jake the Milham here, flying solo with you today. I have the one and only Steven Zobac on. He is a pitcher in the Royals minor league system. He pitched, what was it? It was a little more than a dozen games for the Columbia Fireflies, and then made the transition on up to the Quad Cities River Bandits. Steven, thank you for joining me tonight, man.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. And if for you longtime listeners, if the name sounds familiar, it's for a good reason. We talked to Steven earlier on this summer when he was on an absolute heater for the Fireflies, setting records left and right and just absolutely dominating the competition. And honestly, not much of that changed later on in the season. But before we get on to that, how are you feeling after the season's over, Steven?
I'm good. Yeah, it was a good first season. Had a meeting after the season and stuff, and we just talked about pretty much the basics of a first season for a professional ball player. And it's just, you get all your firsts done. You know, you get your first time away from home, you get your first time living in team housing, first time trying to figure out how to live with all the baseball. And then, of course, 145 games later, you kind of figure out how to progress throughout the season. So it was good. Yeah, it was super solid.
I think it's wild because you pull up the box score, and I'm looking at yours right now, and you had like 23 appearances across the season, and It doesn't sound like much, but at first glance you can forget pitchers are still there every day. Like it's not like you're just sitting at home waiting for your next appearance. How was enduring that such a long slew of games?
Yeah, it sounds difficult. It is in some extent, just because you're constantly mentally checked into every single game. You're going through it. It's just like any other job, though. You show up to the field. It's just like showing up to the office. And right when you show up, this is your job. This is what you do. This is how you work. And the progression from how it felt at the very beginning of the year, when it was like, okay, this is, I have the college mentality of let's go out and compete and freaking win every single game and do all that stuff. That drive that you have somewhat subsides to the point where it's like, hey, let's just keep progressing, instead of this huge, like, big accomplishment to go undefeated throughout the year. It's this feeling of I want to progress myself as well as get to know and progress my relationships with the teammates. So hopefully on in the future, we get to the point where 162 games isn't so daunting and you want to have that winning mentality every single day, So it was good. It was good.
Okay. I think that's an interesting look at it. So earlier this week we had Kyle Kercheval on the Quad Cities broadcaster, and he was talking about like, hey, it's a long season and you lean on other people who are going through this with you for that positivity. Like I imagine that's the same in the dugout, right?
Yeah 100%. It's like I alluded to with the whole situation throughout the year, it's very much people think like a winning mentality is we're going to go out and win this game kind of thing. But you start to learn with all your other players that winning a ball game just comes down to you doing the fundamental stuff better than the other person. If you do that and then you lose, okay, they beat you. You move on, you figure that out. But there's everything that you could possibly do is checked off. It doesn't have to be such a daunting task, I guess,
Yeah, that makes sense. So, 2023 in the books. Do you feel like you did everything you could do to progress as a minor league player and as a pitcher this season?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent. You hear the greats of every single professional sports realm, Kobe and all that stuff. They're like, we were never good enough, So it's, you go through the year, you're always learning things, and it's, yeah, you finally get to the point where you find a routine that semi works, and then 2 weeks later, it's like, why isn't this working anymore? And you have to switch it up. I guess that's the difficult part of having, your body be your commodity, I guess, it's just, you're always trying to figure out ways to keep yourself healthy and strong and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. And this was, I think it's, a lot of people might not realize this was your first like full season of pro ball After
Yep.
how many years did you spend at California?
3. Yeah, I spent
3
3
years.
years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's, I mean, you got your first season of pro ball in. Is there anything that did work in college that did not work in pro ball, just for like maintaining your
Yeah.
headspace and maintaining your body?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, it's so different in college because you don't have a game every day. It's you go to the field for practice, which might be 2.5 to 3 hours, and that's it. When you have games every day, you have the first period of the 2.5, 3 hours of practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stuff what you need done. And then you have another 3 hour game. And then you have
Phew.
about an hour afterwards of, taking a shower, eating your food, doing whatever. So you're at the field for a long period of time every single day. So instead of going there and hitting it hard for the full 8 hours every single day, you have moments to kind of sit there and mentally prepare yourself rather than physically prepare yourself all the time. So there's a learning curve with that for sure.
Okay. Okay. I appreciate you breaking that down, because hey, that is, I could talk about baseball numbers all day, but
Yeah,
you're the one with the experience on the mound and in the dugout, and greatly appreciate your insight into that.
for sure.
So you were talking about a learning curve, and I think that's a good segue into your transition from low A Columbia to high A Quad Cities. And I want to preface it like this: you're still at both levels. You're still like below the average age. So like
Mhm.
it's not like it's a huge jump there. But I want to get your thoughts on how that transition went for you, and were there any challenges you faced?
Yeah, yeah. Low A, I wouldn't say it's easier or harder at any level because it's baseball is baseball. It's going to be difficult
True.
everywhere. But I think in low A, the biggest difference between those two different levels was that the hitters definitely understood the strike zone a lot better. So
Okay.
what that means to the average, listener is you can't get away with throwing pitches off the zone. You can't expand your strike zone. Makes it a little bit easier to get guys out. These guys up here, they don't care what you throw. They don't care where it's thrown. If it's in their spot, if it's in their strike zone, that's what they'll swing at. If it's outside of it, they won't. And low A, you kind of get away with some of that. So it made, I guess, the competition, for lack of better terms, easier. So
Yeah.
that was biggest jump was trying to get back to, you know, finding your zone rather than, getting with the hitters zone. So
I gotcha. I
yeah.
gotcha. And it is I gotta ask this before I forget about it. So it's a lot to try and keep up with the Royals team and then the four minor league teams below
Oh
it.
yeah.
So I am curious, how did your pitching arsenal change at all or evolve through the season, or were you just trying to fine tune what you had in college? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely the largest transition was in spring training, I would say, trying to
Okay.
really, hone in on the pitches that you have and the shapes that you have and figuring that stuff out. And then when you're in the season, you're in the season. It's, you can't really go out 3 days before your outing and completely change the shape of a pitch or how you do that. But your philosophy of your pitches changes. So you go into games and low A and it's throw strikes with all three pitches and you can get guys out. You go up to high A, you start to figure out, okay, like even if I do throw this for the strike, this guy could hit it really well. And so you move on to the next level, and I'm sure double A has another challenge, and you move up. It's the game transitions more than people getting better. It's how to effectively combat the better competition.
Hey, there's a reason why they call it a duel there on
Yeah,
the mound and between the batter.
absolutely. It is a for sure chess match now. Absolutely.
So it is. I want to ask this before another question before I forget. I apologize. How are you feeling about the pitching coaches there in Quad Cities and Columbia? Did they help you out a lot?
Oh my God, yeah, it was. Yeah, it's like they're amazing. I mean, every coach has like a different way of going about it, but for me, like I've never been a big, physical stuff. Like I don't go out and someone tell me, "Hey, your mechanics with this stuff is off, so let's change that." That's never been my style of learning. Mine was definitely like, this is how you want your pitch to look, how
Oh,
so a lot more philosophy and a lot more brain thinking stuff, I guess, rather
yeah.
than the body mind connection. And so down in low A, he was great. He was awesome. He worked with me mechanically a little bit, but definitely asked me, how do you learn the best? And same when I got up to high D-Lu up in high A was very much like, how do you learn the best? And it was, I'd like to talk about it and figure out how my stuff works for me rather than let's change everything about it. So that was
Okay.
good. Phenomenal
That's a.
coaches.
I was about to say, this sounds like a great coaching mentality to me. You want to,
Sure.
each player is different. You got to have a different approach.
Absolutely. And these guys know too. These guys played for, years and years in professional
Yeah.
baseball. There was a single coach that we had that didn't play some time in either minor league or big league baseball. So these guys know how the season goes and they know what minor league baseball is all about. And they just want what's best for you at the end of the day.
That's
Yeah.
great. That's
Mhm.
great. Well, hey, let's last question on the season. How are you feeling just overall after the season? I
Yeah.
imagine your body's a little tired
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you're seeing all the things that you like left out there, for lack of better terms, but how are you feeling, man?
Yeah. Feeling good. Physically throughout the year, you have your ups and downs, but I think I finished off strong with just the physical feeling. Of course, you'd want your team to win. You want your team to go to playoffs, win it all. So there's definitely a feeling of like, I want to go back next year and actually do it rather than just talk about it and think about how good and fun that would be. It's like, let's
Hmm.
go back and actually do it this time. Um, so it's good in my personal feelings and how I feel health wise and stuff. But overall, like with the team, like we just obviously need to get better.
Yeah. And hey, you take the lessons from 2023, you move them on to next season and seasons down the road, and that's all you can control, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So hey, it is, but hey, it's the off season. You're not in a uniform anymore. You're
Yeah.
not on the mound or anything. What you got going on, man?
Yeah, I'm just hanging. My my girlfriend, she plays professional soccer, and my season ended just a little bit before hers, so I got to some time down in LA and watched her play a couple games and stuff.
Awesome.
I'm up here with my family and my twin sister Casey and stuff, and it's just so great to be back home. Just with the family and everything. It's just like, oh, we just remember the first time we sat down and had like a full family dinner. It's like, man, all four of us are finally here. So it's great to have time to remove yourself, and that's really what the off season's all about.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, man. So hey, did you take all the sporting genes from your twin, or is she an athlete herself?
Yeah, she played softball at Cal with me, so we were both,
Wow.
and she was a freaking stud. She for the longest time, I mean, even now, I say that she's like a better athlete overall. Like she just is so good with playing softball and everything. She 4 years in a row at our high school was CCS Player of the Year. All this stuff.
Woo.
She got all the recognition for a good reason. She was super talented and stuff. But now she's doing lessons and everything. She graduated, so she still loves the game, still likes to be around it, and that's kind of what she's up to. So yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Mhm.
hey, that's super cool. You got softball, baseball, soccer with your girlfriend. That
Yeah,
is wow.
yeah.
It's like that
Big-
can make for a
yeah.
very busy summer, I imagine.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. My parents are flying all over the place. I mean, last year they were in Oklahoma for the tournaments and stuff for her. They were all up and down the West Coast during the Pac-12 stuff. I mean, they flew out to South Carolina, Davenport, Iowa. It was yeah, all up and down.
Well, that is awesome though. But
Yeah.
it sounds like you have a great support system
Hmm.
in that though. Are they great during the season?
Absolutely, yeah. This past season was a little bit more difficult just because it was my sister's last year, and they tried to
Mm,
get everything, everything that they possibly could with her because they knew that it was her last season playing. So we want to be there for her,
yeah.
and so I didn't get to see them for I think about 5 months. But for me, I was like, I want to be there for her. So I totally get you guys going. I want to be there for last seasons and everything like that. So I think this next year is going to transition a little bit more. I get to see more of Casey. I'll get to see more of my parents, that kind of thing. So that always feels good, especially being away from home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. So
Mhm.
listen, you talk about recharging physically and mentally and for the soul with your family, and that's good.
Yep.
I want to ask, man, when are you hitting the bullpens? What's the plan for the off season
Yeah.
in playing?
Yeah. I think around November is when I'll start to, ramp up is just a very like aggressive term for it, I
Yeah,
guess.
it is.
Like ramping up for me during November is like playing some light catch and getting into feeling your pitches again, and then you transition to the mound, start doing some mound work, and then you start getting into the bullpens in like late December, around January. And so if you do get called up to big league camp, which who knows the possibilities with that? It's not up to us, but you're ready for it. You don't want to
Yeah.
go in training at your peak 100%, but you do want to get there prepared enough to go and move off to your teams and stuff.
Okay, I didn't even think about it like that. Getting yourself
Yeah,
ready for just the possibility, at least. But it's better to be ready than to not, right?
absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to show up to your first big league camp and not do well. You want to go
True.
and actually, actually put a name to yourself a little bit.
Yeah, that is very true. Well, it is. I want to ask this because it seems like we heard about Driveline a lot last year. We're hearing a little bit more about Tread Athletics, where some of the other Royals pitchers are going. Do you use any of those resources at all? Just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I don't use those specific resources.
Yeah.
I don't use any resources that are like a third party, velo progression or anything like that. I
Uh
stay
huh.
around the local gym. I go to City Sport up here and stuff. And then I have a neighbor who's a catcher at a junior college here, and we'll get together and we'll throw bullpens and stuff. And the biggest communication I have is with I call the Royals. I say, hey, I'm working on this. I send them videos. I send them all this stuff. I try to get on a Rapsodo at some point, just to give them some numbers that they can analyze and give me some feedback with. But that's kind of my drive line, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's I love hearing about the different processes because not you're talking about the coaching approaches. Not everyone's ramping up is the same or
For
how
sure.
they approach the off season. So
Mhm.
that's very good to hear, and that's so cool that sorry you just randomly have a JUCO catcher as your neighbor. That's
Yeah.
that's pretty
So
cool.
while we went to middle school, like elementary school, middle school together, and we kind of fell out of communication for a while. I mean, he was doing his own thing, I was doing my own thing, and I got drafted, and then his dad actually just pulled up like I want to say like a month ago to the house, and we just started chatting. He was like, "Oh, hey, if he needs a catcher, he's still catching and stuff." I'm like, "Dude, great, awesome." So last year, I went up to Cal and stuff, and it went back to my little alma mater school, I guess if you can call that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was great. So I get to do that with him and hang out again.
Well, that's really cool. That is
Yeah,
very very cool.
it'd be fun.
Well, hey, it is. I don't have any other questions for you, but if I do, I want to ask you this: if our listeners should know one thing about you, it could be a random like, it could be a trait that you have. What is
Yeah,
one random thing that you think that they should take away?
yeah. Man, that's a tough one. Whenever I get asked this question, it's not so much baseball related. I like
Yeah.
thinking side like I'm a super outdoorsy guy. I love
Okay.
hunting, fishing, anything outdoors. People think, oh, California, it's like all cities and concrete and everything. It's like we go to this place called Los Banos. We have a duck club there, and we're actually thinking about going hunting tomorrow, and
Wow.
stuff like that. And it's just super fun. That is my absolute happy place. And no matter where I'm at, no matter who I'm with, that's where I find the most peace for sure. So if the biggest takeaway, I guess, is outdoors stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I absolutely love that, man.
Yep.
Absolutely love that. Hey, if folks, I don't know if you're super active on social media or anything like that, but if
Yeah.
folks are trying to keep up with your story, where can they do that at?
Yeah. I don't have a Twitter. People are like, why don't you have Twitter? I never really got into it. I tried being on the platform. It was just super confusing to me. But Steven.Zobac is my Instagram, and I post all kinds of things, stuff outside of baseball, stuff inside baseball, all that stuff. So, yeah, follow me along there.
Heck yeah, that sounds like a good plan to me. Well, hey, Steven Zobac, everyone, thank you so much again for joining us tonight, Steven. Really appreciate getting to catch up with you again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I hope we get to catch up with you again before the season starts. But even if we don't, I wish you the best of luck in 2024. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, and for everyone out there, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, go Royals.
Go Royals.